Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Under the Sportlight. This is the podcast that explores the people who live and breathe professional sport. I'm your host, Phil, and today's guest is a former professional soccer player who took an unconventional path from the pitch to medical school. Her journey spans college soccer in the US, playing professionally in Europe, and now pursuing a career in medicine, saving lives. This is Yasmine Hall. Welcome, Yasmine, and thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's so nice to be here.
So I'm really interested to dive more into your story because I feel like there will be a lot of people out there who can sort of relate to you in the sense of, wanting to be a professional athlete and then at some point realizing they have to pivot into a
Mhm.
completely different career. So I think this will be a very helpful conversation. But before we get started, I'd love to know more about you and your childhood. Where did you grow up and what are your earliest memories with soccer?
Yeah, so I'm from Edmonton, Alberta. Um, I grew up in a family of five. So my mom, my dad, and I have two younger sisters, so I'm the oldest. Yeah, growing up, it was a very sporty household. My parents did sports growing up too, not soccer, but they were very athletic people, so they really wanted us to get involved in sports young, which I'm so thankful for. Um, but I think my earliest soccer memories, I think I was 4 and, the Timbits, like the community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I started my career as a Timbit, and I think my parents just wanted me to try every sport just a little bit, and, they started with soccer, and they hit a home run pretty much. I loved it instantly, so, I just kept going with soccer, and I just, I loved it so much. I just really expressed myself on the field very young. And, yeah, I just remember starting out at the age of 4. I think I played with the boys from age 4 to, 9, and then just kept going with it, and, yeah, so that's kind of a bit about my childhood. I also, I did taekwondo, so I'm actually a black belt as well,
Ooh,
and then at a
don't
certain
mess with you.
yeah. At a certain point, I stopped to focus more on soccer, um, because I wanted to get a scholarship to play Division 1 in the US, so I felt like I needed to focus more. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me.
Well, I suspect getting to be a black belt in Taekwondo takes a lot of time and practice. So, how did you balance those two sort of things that you were doing at the same time?
My amazing parents made it pretty easy for me, 'cause I also at one point, I was doing soccer, I was doing taekwondo, and I also did club track, so I was a very busy girl, so, when I was younger, soccer wasn't as busy, I'm talking, maybe less than 13. It was more of, a twice a week thing, and so was taekwondo. So I think then it was still busy, but it wasn't quite chaotic yet. And then I remember, starting junior high and going into high school, um, I played on, 3 soccer teams. I was still doing taekwondo and track, and then, I remember I would, after school, my mom would bring me to taekwondo, and then I would get dressed really quick, and then my dad would bring me to soccer, and then after that, I would get home and I would study. So sometimes I had, 2 practices a night for most part of the week, and I pretty much went Monday to Monday. Even on Sundays, I had stuff on. So, yeah, I think at that time, my parents really did make it, they were as involved as I was, which I'm really, really fortunate for. But then eventually, as it got more serious, it was like, "Okay, we need to pick because this is too much." Um, yeah, so I track first, and then it was really hard leaving taekwondo because I was a black belt, but I was also, a fighter, and so,
Mm.
I went to nationals, I, almost made, Team Canada for the Pan Ams, I was very serious about soccer, but it was also then that I was like, "Oh, no, I really want a Division 1 scholarship, and I wanna play for Team Canada," so I like soccer more than taekwondo. So soccer was just the love of my life very early on. So I went with it, and then I still was busy even when it was just one sport. So then moving into high school, I just committed to soccer, and yeah, I was on three different teams. I was on the national team, like pre what do you call it, like the provincial, like pre-national team program, and then I was on a women's team and a club team with girls my age. Um, and yeah, no, that kept me busy. Like once again, I had practices like twice a day sometimes. So I would leave school sometimes at like 1. I had like spares, so I had to make up school like in the summers, and I didn't get to do like cooking or any fun classes in high school. Like I really just stuck to what I needed to graduate while also like keeping in mind what I wanted to do for a degree. So yeah, it was busy times, but I had parents who were really ambitious, so I had great role models. My dad is a chemist and my mom's a student advisor at a college, so they care a lot about like our academic success. So when we came back from soccer, it was like, okay, help us clean, do the dishes, and then go study. Um, and it was a little bit strict that way. Like, I didn't have a phone at that time, so it was less distractions too. But um, yeah, that's kind of how I balanced it all. It was a lot, but I certainly had a lot of help too.
Yeah, well, I suspect all that strictness, if you could call it that, probably helped you later on when you're practicing and training and doing all of these things that you need to achieve a really high level in the sport that you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I was very disciplined, and like just my time management skills from like a young age were really developed. I was pushed that way, and then it became like intrinsic. It became very normal for me. Um, because yeah, I still use that to this day. So
I think I would love to know if at that point, did you already know that you wanted to be a professional? You said that you wanted to play soccer in college and get a scholarship. Were you already envisioning a future in professional soccer after that?
see, that's an interesting question because I actually didn't know any women who played pro at that time. So it wasn't really like a thing. So when I was young, like my two goals were I want to play for the national team and like get a scholarship to the US, and I want to be a doctor. Those were my goals like from a young age. And then, once I did get my scholarship, um, like women's soccer just evolved like astronomically. Still has long ways to go, but it really started getting what it deserved. And then it actually became a possible goal to play professionally. So then I totally pivoted that way, when it became just way more common. And I think women did play a professional level before I had that dream, but they weren't paid. It wasn't like a career. It wasn't really, it was something on the side. It wasn't an ambition a lot of girls in the sport shared. Whereas when I was kind of in the middle tail end of my college career, it really boomed and you could play and could actually be paid for what you do, just like the men are, and still get to play your sport and make a career out of it, which is amazing. So it became a later goal because it was way more possible.
Yeah, so as women's soccer is becoming sort of a more reasonable option for someone like you to choose, that's when you did a first pivot, I guess.
Mhm.
And so you went into the US to study and go to college and play soccer. So what did you go study in college?
So I studied, so I was at the University of South Florida for 2 years, so for my freshman and sophomore year. And when I was there, I did biomedical sciences, so just a very biology, chemistry, kind of like a pre-med type of path. So that's what I studied there, and then transferring to Kent, the closest degree to was just a degree in biology, so I did that, and I got a minor in forensic anthropology just because I thought it was
Oh,
really cool. So
Very interesting.
yeah.
Okay. Well, okay, so you're going from freezing cold Edmonton
Mhm.
to warm, sunny Florida.
Yeah, it was a huge difference, but honestly, I loved it. Like, I was so excited as soon as I committed to Florida, I was just, like, so excited for warm weather, like, because I came from, you know, playing indoors for half the year, and our indoors, like, at that time was not full 11v11. It was 5v5 boarded or it was 7v7. So it was never true year-round 11v11 soccer, whereas in Florida, that's all you do. It's like that all the time. Um,
Always
and
outside.
always outside, yeah. Um, unless there's like a hurricane or something, but, um, which
Then you're not playing soccer, just period.
yeah, no soccer period. Um, but yeah, so it was a bit of an adjustment, like heat-wise, and I remember I went to USF like the summer before the fall season started, and I did that with other freshmen too to kind of get like acclimated, move in, do some summer classes so that your fall course load could be a little lighter. And I remember we would do our fitness at like 5:30 in the morning because that's when it was the least humid. So we did that daily just to hit the time of the day where it wasn't as scorching hot. And then we would have practice in the afternoon. So I definitely had to get used to that because also Edmonton is very dry, hey? Like it's not humid at all. So I'd say the humidity was almost like more to get used to than like the heat itself.
Right. And then you also mentioned you went then from Florida back up to Ohio, was it? Kent
Right.
State?
I actually visited Kent State before committing to South Florida. So when I was in high school, I was fortunate. I think I had like 5 visits, and Kent State was one of them. And I really felt like it was an amazing place. It came down to South Florida and Kent State for me when I was in high school. And ultimately I picked South Florida, but I always had like just a very good image of Kent State. So when I made the decision to transfer, like my first phone call was to Coach Rob Marinero at Kent State, and I kind of told him what was going on about the situation, and I had a visit, and instantly I was like, "Yeah, I this place is amazing." I felt like home. Like my coach Rob was just amazing. He felt like family, but also was somebody who demanded the most of you, but in a very safe manner. You knew he was like in your corner batting for you, so it just felt like the right move, and I decided to go there, and yeah, I have 0 regrets. I loved it, and I transferring has a lot of like negative outlook to it because like you always assume that something went wrong, so then you switched places, but um and not everything was perfect, but I feel very fortunate that I had 2 programs where I just made incredible connections, had amazing footy, um, and I just got to grow a lot as a human. So when I look back on it, I'm very grateful to both programs in different ways. Um, but yeah, it was
Mhm.
back up in the cold. The only
Not as bad as
not
Edmonton,
as
but
bad,
still.
not as bad. And a big difference is that we had like an indoor turf field, so we could play 11v11 inside. So which was really useful because, yeah, the winters were still brutal, so
Soccer all year round then in Ohio.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then at that point, how do you balance your academics and what you're trying to achieve from a study perspective with the demands of college soccer, which I assume are much higher than your Timbit days?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely more rigorous than the timid days. Um, so, yeah, no, everything was about time management, I would say, in college, whether it was South Florida or Kent State, but actually, I wanna say my plate was a lot heavier at Kent State. So I typically had 5, 6 classes a semester, um, 2 practices a day, like a lift in the morning or like a short practice in the morning, and then at some point in the middle of the day, another practice. So luckily we had like academic advisors that could kind of organize the day for us, pick our classes that they align with practice, which was really helpful. But I also did research during my undergrad studies, and I did about 20 hours a week, in season and out of season. So sometimes I was not home from like 6 in the morning till 8 p.m. Just like waking up, going to lift, showering, going to my first class, physio, second class, practice slash lunch, another class, and then a lab, and then like a little study break, and then research, and then I'd be home, make dinner, study, go to bed, repeat. So, yeah, it was a lot. But I think I loved what I was studying, so it didn't make it so bad. And footy, like for me, wasn't like it made me so happy. Like I was doing things that made me happy, so it didn't seem so heavy. Um, but then what added to my plate also at Kent is I actually got injured. So, when you think of injury, you think, oh, you're not doing much. But when it's something like an ACL, you're going to practice still, you're watching, and you're actually doing a lot on the side to be able to join those people on the field. So sometimes I did physio twice a day, and I still went to practice to watch or to cheer. So honestly, I was quite busy during that time. Um, and on top of that, it's quite isolating when you're injured. So those were like tough, but like when I look back on it, like just very efficient days, and I was able to come back successfully from my injuries. I was able to like bloom school wise, and so it was all worth it.
You said that you mentioned you had an ACL injury, yes?
Yeah, I had two actually.
Two. Okay. Well, all right. So, how do you then? Okay, ACL injuries, as far as I know, I am not a doctor. You will be shortly, but I know they're really long recovery times. Yeah.
No.
So, how for two ACL injuries, how do you stay motivated when you're playing, you have all these plans, and then you get injured, and now you have 9 months ahead of you to recover from a pretty big injury?
Yeah, no, it was really hard. Honestly, if I didn't love soccer the way I did, uh which happens to a lot of people. Like a lot of people do get these injuries, and they lose the motivation, and it's kind of sadly like career ending, but it's the person's choice, and you have to do y- like your ambitions and your motivation has to match what you enjoy doing as well. So for me, at the first time, I actually was very motivated. I got injured. It was bad. It sucked for a few days, but I got back on it really quick. I was destined to like prove everybody wrong and myself and get back stronger than ever. Um, I want to say, yeah, I was really motivated to just use it as a challenge. One thing about me is I'm not afraid of a challenge. I invite it actually because I know it's an opportunity to grow, and I know that I've watched other people do it too, and I've been inspired by that. So I was like, let's take this situation to be the best version of myself and show people that it can be done too. So for the first one, I want to say that's kind of the outlook I had. And then the second one, actually, it was my first practice back that I got injured. Um,
It
I
hurts just to hear it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I know. Like whenever I tell people, they're like, "Oh my gosh," because you
Oh,
do like you're right. It's a really long process, right? And usually it's about well, in North America, it's usually about 9 months, but I took 10 just to be safe, be extra prepared. And I came back after 10 months, and yeah, first like contact practice back, bad tackle, and my knee couldn't handle it, so. I got reoperated, and I wanna say this one hurt more, just because I had finally gotten a taste of the field, and then it got taken away from me right away, and once again, I love soccer so much that this time it just really hurt because this meant now that I was away from the field for 2 years, which is so much for me. This is so long. So the second one was a little hard. But knowing that I had gone through it before, I knew I could do it again. And unf like, I say this sadly, but it also helped, but sadly, like, I did have other teammates going through it with me. So we were kind of all in it together. I think if I would have been alone and the only injured one, I think it would have been really hard. But there's always, like, 3, 4 girls per team that suffer ACL, injuries, which is a red flag, but,
It's crazy, yeah, the
yeah.
amount of ACL injuries.
It's crazy, and the more research I do on it, the more I think it can be prevented. Obviously, there's, like, anatomy questions that are involved, but, anyway, yeah, so the second time was a little harder. I took a little longer to come back from that one. Um, and then, um, I came back and I was okay, and at that point, I still was dreaming of playing pro, and I was also thinking about medical school, but knowing the state of my knee, I was like, "I'll give myself a season. If I do good that season, I'll get myself an agent and I'll go play pro. If the season doesn't go well, if I'm in pain, if I'm struggling, I just want to enjoy it and then apply medical school and go that route." So, and then it was COVID during this time too, so it was just, like, a really short season, but I ended up coming back from that second ACL, and I had a short but really good season. Made a highlight video for myself and decided I was gonna go the pro route.
Nice.
Uh,
And, tell me about that first training session right after the second ACL, which is, the second injury, when that same at the exact same time before you got injured again. What was
yeah.
going through your head just walking onto the field?
I was I was so happy that to be touching the field, but I was a little scared because I remembered the first time I had that kind of joy and then got hurt again. Um, but I remember I actually had a conversation with my coach and I was like, "Look, the first time around I retore after the first practice back. I really don't want that to happen." So my first
No
few
one
practice,
touched me today.
yeah, no one touched me. Like, I wore a different color bib and everything because I was like, "No, if I get injured again, please let me enjoy a few days." So the first days I went really easy. I made sure I was captain that year actually, so I even told people, I was like, "Just don't go after everyone. Don't try and injure anyone. Like, just let's be careful, be mindful people are coming back from injuries." Because like I said, I wasn't the only one. There was a few of us. Yeah, so I was a little scared. So I had a conversation with my coach about that because I
Well,
really
it's
did.
good you made sure that, you had the best chance of not getting re-injured again on your first practice back, so that's good.
Yeah, sometimes you do have to advocate for yourself a little bit and just yeah. With the goals I had in mind, I think it was necessary to have that conversation and it ended up going really well and so yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like those setbacks, um, helped prepare you for your life beyond soccer, even beyond professional soccer after that?
For sure. I think an injury like an ACL injury, with it comes a lot of resilience and perseverance, just because it is such a long process and it's a painful one. Um, Not saying other injuries don't have the same effect, but like I feel like anyone who goes through an ACL injury goes through a lot of resilience because there's days where you're just in pain and your rehab one day might feel impossible when you did it 3 days ago. Um, so I think it teaches you a lot about patience, about resilience, and just also about like being proud of yourself, like because it's really hard to see your progress sometimes because, sometimes it's just like I remember like relearning how to walk properly felt so awkward or, doing like a single leg squat or like jumping. you can't see the progress because you're starting from scratch, but then even 2 sessions in, you're more confident than before. So I think it just yeah, it teaches you a lot about resilience. And then, um, like, I felt like any challenge I had after that in my professional career and in my academic career, like, I feel equipped to handle because I've had those challenges before and I've been pushed to, like, an extreme. Um, so yeah, no, those times they taught me a lot, for sure.
Yeah. And did you, just last question about the ACL, did you injure your good kicking leg or the other one?
I both times was my right leg, which was my good leg.
Oh, shoot,
So
that makes it even worse.
well, you know what, actually? I became, like, very versatile with my feet because my right one was hurting and was weaker, like, I kind of subconsciously, like, made me use my left foot more, um, and then coming to become pro, like, I could use both feet pretty well, so
There
it was
you
a bit of
go.
a blessing in disguise, really.
Yeah, there's one pro there at least in this whole situation. Okay,
Yeah.
so tell me the story then about how you went from playing college to playing professionally in France. You made your own highlight video, and then
Mhm.
what?
Um, yeah, okay, so this story is a little bit crazy because it's really unconventional, but one of my favorite quotes is, "If opportunity does not build the door." And I love this quote because I think I've never been one to, like, leave my faith in other things and other people. Like, I'm really much like, let's create your own destiny. So, when I decided I wanted to try going the pro route and I had that season, um, I reached out to an agent that my friend had, and I got in touch with him, and he ended up being my agent the whole time. His name is Boris, with Ozamba, and, I kinda just told him where I wanted to play, like what position. Um, I made a soccer resume, and I made my own highlight video, which was actually really fun, but also really hard to go through so much film because I had 5 not 5 years because I was injured, but I had just so many games from USF to Kent. So it was a lot to go through,
Who
but
filmed it for you? Did you do it yourself? Did you set up a camera and did it, or did someone actually
no,
follow
actually, our
you?
games were filmed at USF and Kent State, so all I had to do was ask for access to it. I think the videos used to get put on Huddle, like, after a game so that we could go back and watch. So I just went on Huddle, like, copied the videos, edited them.
Yeah.
Um,
So on the one side, that's really good. So you had the material. On the other side is you had a lot of material that didn't always involve you. So you're having to comb through all of this material and edit it all yourself to find the spots where you're shown in the video.
yeah, exactly. So it is a lot of work, but thankfully, like, I could remember games that I really wanted to showcase in my video, so I could, like, go back to them. But yeah, no, it was a lot of work and, there's certain things I wanted to showcase. Like, for me, I think one of my biggest assets were my strength and my speed. So those are things that I really wanted to highlight that I put more emphasis on. Um, in high school, I was a forward, I was a winger, but then at USF, I became a fullback, and then at Kent State, I was a bit of both. So I had part of my video that was really offensive and part of my, video that was really defensive work. So, yeah, just making that was a lot, but, once again, it's about advocating for yourself and, if you want it that bad, like, you'll do it. So I did that, and then I wanna say after a month of, working with Boris, he had an opportunity for me. I was open to playing almost anywhere. Like, I just really wanted to play pro. I think the top leagues I had in mind were, like, France, Spain, Germany, Italy. Um, and my agent got back to me, and he said, "Okay, like, I have this team that is interested, but they wanna do a tryout. They can pay your flight, but you're not guaranteed a contract." Which, like, at the time was pretty normal considering I hadn't played professionally and I was coming back from injury. So I understood why, this club just wanted to watch me. Um, so I kind of took a chance and I went without a contract and they booked my flight and I got on the plane and I get to France. Luckily I do speak French, so that helps a lot because, you know, that was completely new for me. So I get in France and I'm trying out with this team. They ended up wanting like more of a forward, and at this point, think I preferred playing as a fullback. So it didn't work out for both of us. But I was kind of freaking out after that because I was just in France and I was like, well, I'm here. So I told my agent, I was like, I'm here. So like, contact all the teams. I can get there tomorrow, and at this point I was freshly graduated too, so I also had like no money. So I'm like living in France and I'm not getting paid yet. And so I'm like, shoot, like if I don't find a team within 1 or 2 weeks, like I'll have to go back home because I can't really sustain myself here. Um, so then luckily my agent got in touch with my coach Mathieu at Rodez, and that's when he said, "Hey, I actually coached in Canada. I love Canadians. We're Division 2, but we're trying to get promoted to Division 1. Um, I know you're coming back from injury and you're already in France. Why don't you come stay the week with us? We'll house you, we'll feed you, and if you're a good fit, you're a good fit." And I was like, sounds great. I'm here. Why not? I was really betting on myself at this point. I was kind of my number one cheerleader. I had nothing to lose. If it didn't work out after that tryout, I had decided I was going to go home. Um, so I get to Rodez and that's where I met, Alexandria Lamontagne, who ended up becoming my best friend and roommate afterwards in Rodez. But, she picked me up from the train station. I got to the place where I was staying. Um, and I just started practicing with the team. And instantly, it felt right. Like the coaching staff was so warm. My teammates were so funny and also so hardworking. And the club was just well structured and like I was fortunate to spend the week or I think it was like a few days with them and then play a exhibition game with them. And I actually like scored and it just went really well. And I remember after that game, they came up to me and they were like, yeah, we'd like you to sign. We'd like you to stay. We really like your qualities. We can see that you're really strong from injury still. And um, yeah, we would love to have you join the team. So,
How did it
um,
feel when they came to you and said that?
oh, like it just felt like magical. Like it just felt amazing. Like I could tear up thinking about it. It was like a little dream come true. It's like the 4-year-old Timbit was just so happy. Like like just a few years before that, like playing professionally like wasn't a dream because no one really did it. No one pushed to do that unless you were on the national team. If you weren't on the national team, you kind of had to just eventually phase out from soccer, right? So I was just incredibly happy. And those ended up being like some of the 2 best years of my life, really. I'm so grateful that I had them. So yeah.
Did you have a really good support system from home when you were going out there?
Yeah, my parents have a very similar mentality as me. Well, that's probably where I get it, but they're very much, if you want to make your own opportunities, go out there, go do it. Um, but my parents are also really practical. They're like, if it doesn't work out, like, come home. Like, you're not just gonna stay there. Um, so when I signed, they were just like so happy and they were emotional about it too, right? Like they had been like supporting me in the sport since I was 4, watching me play, watching me dream, watching me cry when I was injured. So I had an amazing support system back home. Um, I think it was new to them too, right? Like they didn't know how professional women's sports really worked. So I think for a bit, they had a lot of questions, but they were so supportive. My friends were supportive too. So yeah, I'd say my support system was amazing.
Yeah. And how different was the culture for you when you went there? What sort of adjustments did you have to make when you went to live and play in a different country?
Yeah, so there were definitely a few differences. So coming from playing like soccer in the US, the game itself is really physical, more emphasis on strength, on speed, on stamina. In France, it's very technical. So when I came soccer wise, that was an adjustment for me. But then at the same time, my abilities that I got from North America allowed me to stand out a little bit as well. And then culturally, the team atmosphere is a little bit different. So I'd say in the US, there was a lot of emphasis on like connection between teammates, like cooperation, the team being really close. Um, in France, we still our team was really close, but you could definitely tell that players were really there mostly for themselves. Whereas when I was in the US, like the team was everything. There was no I, like it was all about the team. So I'd say that was a bit different, but I mean, it makes sense too because you're playing professionally at that point. It's your career. Um, so I could
And you're
see,
trying to get seen and be signed by bigger teams and things like that.
yeah, exactly. So I'd say it was maybe a little bit less emphasis on the team. Um, and then in French culture, you know, life is not taken as seriously, I don't think. Like in North America, it's really like wake up, get this done, get this done, get this done. And, you know, when you have that mentality in France, like sometimes people were like, hey, slow down a little bit. So it was kind of nice to live in that environment where people are still very hardworking, but people like really taking the time, enjoying life, sitting down, having a coffee, taking it chill, and then starting their day, Whereas I was so used to like go, go, go. I have to meal prep, I have to wake up, I have to pack my coffee. And so that was a little different. And then trying to think of other differences. Um, I spoke French, so like I speak French. So for me, like the culture shock wasn't really huge. Um, I guess just some aspects of mentality were a bit different.
Mhm.
Um, but
Yeah,
yeah, no.
I feel like language would be a big barrier to cross if you don't speak it.
Mhm.
So I completely see where you're coming from, from the perspective of you speaking French really did prepare you to have a much easier time adjusting to the new culture and the new team because you can communicate. Communicating is everything. So
Yeah,
I can see
exactly.
that for sure. Yeah. So okay, now you're in France. You're playing professionally. You say you played there for a couple of years.
Mhm.
Walk me through the day you sort of thought, okay, I'm done. Time to move on to the
Yeah.
next step.
There wasn't, you know what? There wasn't really a day. It kind of happened. Like the way it happened was just not like super fluid. Like it was a series of events basically. So played 2 years with Rodez, and then my first year we got promoted to Division 1, and then my second year we got relegated back to Division 2. A lot of girls were leaving, the coach was leaving, the club was going through kind of a turnaround, and I think financially they were gonna invest a little bit less in the women, which is sad. So I had made this decision to switch clubs. Now, what people don't talk about a whole lot in professional women's soccer is it's not just about you as a player. It's about money. It's about the market with positions. It's about how much money the club even gives to the women's side. It's about visas. It's about a lot more than just are you good, are you not? So, um when it came to like switching teams, it happened to be kind of a bad year for fullbacks. So not a lot of movement was happening with defenders. So I had a hard time. Like everyone wanted forwards or midfielders. So for me, that was a little bit tough. And then um, finally, I, th- I think I was talking to a team in Italy and they were really interested. And then the club like took away money from the women's side. So it didn't end up working out. And then towards the end of the window, I was about to sign with a team in Switzerland, and I was pretty excited about this team. We were just waiting on the visa. Um, the visa came late. It came after the window, and once you miss the window for whatever reason, you have to wait. You can't play. Yeah. You have to wait till the next window. So those were hurdles that like kind of had nothing to do with soccer. I'm I'm sure like of course the better the player you are, the more offers you have, but even if you have interest and people want you, like it's not always that simple. Um I saw a lot of teams getting back to my agent and I about them cutting funds to the women's side. Also, some countries have like a minimum salary they need to give to internationals. So, it's not even me being greedy and asking for a lot. It's sometimes it's like a rule and the team can't afford it. So sometimes it's just that. And I only have a Canadian passport. So I couldn't like have an EU passport and make things like cheaper. Um, and then the visas for certain countries, like Switzerland, just take a really long time. So at that point, I was a little lost. I was not mentally ready to stop playing soccer. Originally, when I started playing professionally, I told myself I would play like a max of 5 years, unless I like made the national team or something like that. Uh, or the day I stopped having fun is the day that I would, not force it anymore, which never happened. I always had fun with it. But um, yeah, so when I didn't make that window, I was at home and, the practical side of me was like, well, clearly, like, this is not something you can really rely on. Like, it depends on other people. You never know what's going to happen. It's not necessarily my fault or my agent's fault. Um, I didn't want to apply for universities like fully, but I knew that it was probably the safe thing to do. So I wrote my MCAT and I applied to medical schools and I applied for like a master's, like just in case in the winter window I didn't find a team. And I was also working at a restaurant at this time. So, um,
Okay, so hold on a second. You're working at a restaurant, you're trying to stay in Europe and keep playing, and you're studying for an MCAT. If you're listening and you don't know what the MCAT is a huge test, right? You can confirm
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That is, you have to study for like months in advance, like really, really diligently to pass.
yeah, yeah. So I was just doing all these things just to ensure something could happen, like once again, if opportunity doesn't knock, you build the door, have things set up. Um, I think a fear of mine is not having a plan. So, I just wanted to ensure I had everything on my side and I was training a lot. I had hired like a personal trainer to help me with soccer, with fitness, all sorts of things. So I was doing a lot. It was a good time. Like at the time it was a very stressful time and I was a little lost, but looking back, it was really transformative. Um, so yeah, anyway, then the winter window rolled around and as you might know, it is a usually very slow window. So if you don't really find anything in the summer, you like your chances of finding something in the winter is still kind of low. Um, so I didn't hear anything in the winter window. Um, and then February came around and I got 3 medical school interview invites. So um I was pretty happy about that because, like, for those who don't know, like, getting into med school in Canada is insanely competitive. Acceptance rate ranges from 2 to 8%, like, of applicants get in. And we're in a doctor shortage, so it's just a lot of people wanna be doctors and not a lot of people get the opportunity. So, I felt really grateful to get interviews. And so at this time, I was preparing for interviews, I was working, and I was still training a lot. I was talking to my agent a lot. May rolls around, and I got accepted at the University of Ottawa's medical school. I was, like, ecstatic. I was so happy. Um, and then, like, this is so weird. The way life happens sometimes is just really odd. But, like, 5 days later, I hadn't accepted my medical school offer because I was still seeing, like, what would happen with soccer. I was just curious. I kinda had made my mind up at this point, which I'll get to, but 5 days after I got into medical school, I got, like, 4 teams reach out to my agent. I had a team I had my old team, I had another team in France, I had a team in Spain, and I had a team in Italy. And this time, they were ready for me to sign the contract, like, then and there. So, it was such a, like, a full circle moment, like, kind of thing, but during that year of waiting for the window, working, applying, I think I slowly started grieving soccer. Um, I obviously wanted it to continue, but I had 0 regrets, and I felt nothing but gratitude. I felt like I had had a really rewarding, really amazing career. Even though I played professionally 2 seasons, like, those seasons felt like such an amazing life just themselves. So, I was really at peace with the fact that I had lived my dream. I had this amazing story to tell, um, and just this amazing time of my life. So, it was sad, but, I just looked back on it feeling like, "How lucky am I that I got to live this?" Instead of, "Oh, I wish I kept going." You know, you're not always in control, and women's soccer is still evolving, and, you know, I was, like, a year late to the Canadian Pro League. Like, had this happened, like, a few years later, I'd probably still be playing because I would probably be guaranteed, like, some kind of footy back at home, but that wasn't an option then. Um, so my separation from soccer kind of came slowly, and as I said, it's so hard to get into medical school that when you get in, you kinda have to go. Like, it's a once in a lifetime in itself, and I had accomplished a dream. I had had this amazing experience. Um, so I felt at peace with my decision. Um, but I will say I miss it every single day, and I think about it all the time. It was really difficult. And those 4 teams that reached out after I got into medical school, I ended up saying no. So I'm happy that in the end, you know, it was my decision. I could have said no to medical school and I could still be playing. Um, but yeah, no, it was a roller coaster.
Yeah, well, no kidding. And as you were saying, all of these things, I can help but think a lot of people they find identity
Mhm.
in what they're doing. So you had this dream, and you're now playing professionally. So you ask someone that's doing this, "Well, who are you?" And they'll say, I'm a soccer player. I'm a professional athlete." Did you experience that feeling as well of having that identity tied into that dream that you were realizing? And if so, how then do you let go of that identity that you'd carried on for so long and then now into a new one?
Yeah, no, what you're saying is really important because it definitely happened, and I have a few friends too, it happened too, but you do tie your identity to it, and for a really long time, like, everything about me was soccer, like, it was always soccer, and I really much like, my full identity was being a professional soccer player. So, when I was home working, writing the MCAT, applying, I felt like I kinda had lost it a little bit, which was really difficult. Um but then you ask me now as a medical student, soccer is very much still part of my identity even though I don't play anymore, and I think the important thing is to to know that just because you're not doing something doesn't mean it's not your identity anymore. Like, you once did it, that's still you. So I think I had to accept that even though I was no longer a professional soccer player, like, soccer will always be a part of me. It will always be an identity, and I found a lot of comfort in that because I think I felt like that was ripping away from me, when in reality, I was just adding a new identity, like, just having multiple. But yeah, no, it was really hard, and sometimes I feel like I've lived multiple lives because, one year you're playing soccer in France, and then all of a sudden you are studying for 10 hours a day. Like, it's so different, and so I've definitely had a few, like, identity crises, but my best way of getting out of it is just knowing you can still have those identities even if you're not actively doing something, and,
Maybe they're now facets of your identity rather than the only thing that you do or that you
exactly,
are.
yeah, and it just how sad would it be to feel like something that was a part of your life for 20 years is not your identity anymore, like, that's just that doesn't happen, so, like you said, it's a facet.
So now then you're a medical student, you're shifting your focus from physical performance to academic performance.
Mhm.
How do you do that?
Yeah, so that was really hard because my first semester, I hadn't been in university for 3 years, so this sounds silly, but I forgot, like, I didn't know how to study, like, I forgot what it was like to study. I've always been a really curious person, and I do love learning, but medical school it's not like undergrad, like, you go to class from 8 to 2, and, being active is still very much part of my rituals, so then, I go to the gym, and then you study, like, multiple hours a night just to make sure that you're keeping up with the volume of what you learn. And then you need to sleep an appropriate amount of time. And, you also need to do things for you. Like, for me, I like watching TV a little bit before bed. It relaxes me. Um, and, like making good meals, like eating healthy so that I can feel like energetic every day. So it was a huge shift. And for a while, I was trying to figure out what my best method was, but it comes back to the time management and to, like, what means a lot to you, and I learned so much of that through, like, high school and college, so it was just now elevated to, like, a medical school level, um, but yeah, the first semester was really tough for me, big adjustment, because some of my classmates were coming directly from undergrad, so kinda had a school flow, and, I was just kicking a soccer ball every day for fun and getting paid and doing it in an amazing country, like, so, now I was like, "Oof, like, what do I do now?" So, yeah, it was really hard, but after a semester, I got the hang of it. Um, I got, like, a really good routine. I've made some amazing friends. I have amazing roommates. Um, so it all kind of, like, fit well together, and so now I feel, like, very, very used to it and in a very good routine.
Yeah, and now you're in your second year of medical school,
Mhm.
and so far, what has surprised you the most about it?
Um, oof, that's a good question. Um, I think what surprised me the most of med school is how time seems to fly even when you're doing a lot of the same things. So, like, I think before starting, I was like, "Oh, 4 years of studying, like, that's so much." But I can't believe I'm already halfway through 2nd year, and, like, technically, I only have a semester left, and then we're in the hospital full time. So I think what surprised me the most is just even though you're working so hard and you are filling up your brain with so much information and you have so many exams, time, like, goes by fast, and I think I was also surprised by how much fun I could still have in medical school. Like, it if you organize your time, you can go out with friends on the weekend, you can go to dinner, you can work out together. Like, we still, no matter how busy we are, make time for each other, which I thought med school meant like no social life. Um, but like my friend group and I have made like such a good effort at, being able to do both. So yeah, I would say that's probably my biggest surprise.
Yeah, and then now you're learning all these new things. What's exciting you most at this stage? And have you decided what you're going to do as a specialty?
Yeah, my problem is I like a lot of things. So I haven't quite decided exactly what I want to do. Um, I really like surgery. The first time I went into the operating room, I felt a lot of adrenaline that I hadn't felt since being on a soccer field. So that also really surprised me because I was like, "Oh, so I can get a similar feeling that I had playing soccer kind of in medicine, just the intensity, kind of the stress." I think I'm someone who flourishes in stress. Stress helps me. Um, so
Perform well under pressure, I'm sure.
yeah, like I think I do need pressure to perform better. So yeah, I really enjoy surgery, but that being said, it's a longer residency, so we'll see. I think I'll still keep exploring it. But I also really like emergency medicine and I really like family medicine. But if I had to pick tomorrow, it would probably be something surgical, either general surgery or ENT, which is like ear, nose, throat. Um, I've really enjoyed, those specialties, so, yeah, we'll see. I am someone who started med school a little bit later than some of my classmates, which means by the time I graduate, I'll be 30 when I'm done my medical degree, so I'm probably gonna take in, like, family life into account with my choice, but yeah.
Okay, well, I wish you good luck in choosing. I'm sure it's very difficult. Now, if you were to give someone an advice today, someone that's thinking about life after sport, what would you tell them?
Oh, I would tell them to follow their passions and to keep every single door open, um, and to really go after the things that they wanna do, even if they seem a little impossible. Um, I would also tell them that, life after sport is really different, but that doesn't take the sport out of you. You're still that athlete. That sport is very much still a part of you. It doesn't just fade away once you start or stop playing. Because I think a lot of people have a hard time accepting moving on, which I did too. Um, so yeah, I would tell them that, you're still that athlete. That's still a very big part of you, even if you're transitioning into a new era of life.
Amazing. Well, Yasmin, before I let you go, I just have just one last thing. We have this segment here on the show, and it's called Quick Fire. Okay,
Oh boy.
so I'm gonna give you a choice between two options, and you
Okay.
have to choose one. Okay?
Okay.
All right, then, ready.
It's quick fire time!
Mhm.
So, would you choose tactical discipline or creative freedom on the pitch?
Tactical discipline.
Locker room music or pre-game focused silence?
Locker room music. Yeah.
European football or North American soccer?
European.
Clean sheet or game-winning goal?
Game-winning goal.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Early mornings or late nights?
Probably early morning, but I generally love both. So
Quiet night in or dinner out with friends?
dinner out with friends.
Planning everything or going with the flow?
So initially, I want to say planning everything, but I think a lot of what I do is also going with the flow with a plan,
There you
and then
go. It's sort of a
letting the
mixture.
flow go. So a bit of a mixture, but
Mhm.
I probably more towards the planning one.
Lecture hall or hands-on learning?
Hands-on learning.
Front row or back row of the hall?
Back row.
Study in silence or with background noise?
Background noise.
And the last one, exam nerves or match day nerves?
Match day. Match day. All day. Yeah.
Well, Yasmin, that's all I got for today. I just want to thank you again. And I want to say, if you want to let people know where to find you online, if they want to follow your journey, your social accounts, the floor is yours.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, my Instagram is just Yasmine Hall, my name. So yeah, and if anyone ever has any questions about soccer, medicine, whatever it may be, please, my DMs are always open.
Amazing. Well, Yasmin, I'd like to thank you again for being here and your willingness to share your story. Thanks to everyone who listened to this. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Under the Sportlight.